In an Israelite literalist reading of the Torah, the final action of God after creation was to rest. Genesis chapter 2, verse 3. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work he had done in creation. So God blessed the seventh day and hallowed it, because on it God rested from all the work he had done in creation. The present age of creation is precisely this seventh day. For scribal Pharisees, what God is doing at present is resting, just as Moses said. They believe Moses wrote that. This is the point at issue with Jesus' claim that, the Johannine Jesus claim, that God is working even now. John chapter 5, verse 17. What Jeremiah's explanation of the Sabbath command sets forth is the prohibition of servile work. Work done by slaves in elite households. The Sabbath was a weekly replication of the annual Passover that celebrated Israel's status as free persons, now devoted to the service of their liberator God. On the Sabbath, Israelites were to be free elites, free for the service of their God alone. Here, the man, presumably an Israelite, carries his mat around so publicly that his actions come to the attention of the Judeans, who accuse him of breaking God's Sabbath law. This controversy between Jesus and the Judeans over law-breaking, and later over Jesus' claims of kinship with God, will eventually lead to Jesus' death. John chapter 5, verse 14. After this, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, "See, you are healed. Do not sin anymore, so that nothing worse happens to you." John chapter 9, verses 1 to 2. This is the story of the man born blind. As he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Scholars of the Gospel of John often puzzle over the fact that while the Johannine Jesus rejects the idea that suffering is payment for sin, over in John chapter 9, verse 2, in the story of the man born blind, back here in John chapter 5, verse 14, the Johannine Jesus seems to accept that suffering is a payment for sin. What's going on? If we assume that Jesus is referring to something worse happening to the man, and he's referring to an illness, then the puzzle is indeed present. We got a puzzle on our hands. Jesus seems to be threatening another illness if the man should sin again. But if we recognize that in Mediterranean societies, sin is a breach of interpersonal relations, there ceases to be a problem. If I sin, sin is shaming God, right? Dishonoring God. Well, if I dishonor God, I break up my relationship not only with God, but all those who are God's kin. That is, the community of Israel. So by sinning, I disturb interpersonal relations. For if sin is whatever destroys one relationship with the group, and if we note that this man was devoid of friends to put him into the pool, Jesus' comment makes perfect sense. As a friendless outcast, the man was indeed a sinner. an outsider unattached to a group. That's interesting, isn't it? Yes, Stephanie.
I mean, this sort of goes to what we were talking about before, because sometimes the person doesn't choose to be an outcast, but the dominant society outcasts him for whatever reason, like Jesus.
Right. Like the Johannine Jesus group.
Yeah.
The Johannine Jesus group looks to Israel as the dominant society, which they are a conscious alternative to. They are an alternative society. They are an anti-society. Unlike the other Jesus groups. The other Jesus groups were like, well, we are Israel. Not the Johannine group. The Johannine group is like, we are the anti-Israel. It's very interesting. Yes, this does happen, Stephanie. It's a very good point. So being a sinner is being in a condition that's truly worse than death. For a Mediterranean person, that would be without a group. And we're called to heal people of sin. That's very interesting. Not necessarily sin of a particular this or that act that you do, but the condition that exists of alienation in the world.
So sin in that context and I want to almost say vocabulary is different from what we think of it as.
We have a very highly evolved, and this should be, highly evolved understanding of sin. Sin, in the way it's understood in different parts of the Bible, is kind of like a force that exists in the world. You have this, it just damages human relations because it dishonors God. And God has to defend his honor. And the result of that is, well, look at him. Look at his situation is horrific. He's without kin. He's without anybody to put him in the freaking pool. He's a sinner. Don't do sin again, because otherwise something worse will happen to you. What worse will it be? An illness? Or nobody will ever bury you and remember you?
In the eyes of the Pharisees, it was sin for Jesus to heal them.
That's right. That's right. So, he may have been sick, but he was also ill. Remember that sickness is one thing, and illness is another thing. Sickness is a human reality being interpreted variously according to different cultures. It is a misfortune in human health and well-being. Something's wrong with the body. That's a sickness. Illness. Illness is a culturally specific interpretation or explanatory concept of the reality called sickness, seen as a disvalued state of being in which social networks have been disrupted and human meaning lost. We're more familiar with disease. Disease is another culturally specific interpretation or explanatory concept, our Western explanatory concept, of the reality called sickness, seen as a biomedical malfunction affecting or afflicting an organism. We interpret things as disease because we like to fix things. So we think of terms of function, because our core cultural value in the West is performative activism. Many peoples on earth, the core cultural value is interpersonal contentment. So the emphasis we have in the West, 20% of the world's cultures, is on doing. The emphasis most people on earth have in the world of the Bible is being. Does that make sense? But what I want you to see here is pan-cultural reality in all cultures is sickness. Sickness is the reality. Illness and disease are not realities. They are interpretations, cultural consensus reality interpretations of the reality called sickness. Okay. Given his age and the short life expectancies in antiquity, should the man repeat whatever disrupted his relationship with his in-group, he would indeed risk the worst of all fates and the worst of all illnesses. So in this world, you can be sick, but that'll be interpreted as an illness. But you can be ill without actually being sick in this world. For instance, you can have the illness called blindness. That might be a sickness too, in which there is something wrong with your ability to see. We would call that the disease blindness. They don't have disease in this world. They have illness, which is their interpretation of sickness. So you could be blind, and that could be a sickness. Something's not working. My eyesight's not working. And an illness. Or you could be blind and not have a sickness. Your eyes are functioning, but you don't see and understand Jesus. You're still ill. Hey, thanks for watching. Just continue the playlist for the next part of the study. If you have further questions, this is good. They will get addressed, so keep watching. If you found value, please subscribe, like, and share. As always, questions, comments, and criticisms are most welcome. God bless you.